so my name is Beatriz, and today my topic is endangered species. My main claim is that the lack of conservation for endangered species puts our survival into question. So I have 3 claims that support this, and it's 1, we do not know the extent of the consequences. 3, we rely on the animals. 2, rely on the animals, and 3, we are unsure of the extent of the economic consequences of animal extinction. So, for my first one, we do not know the extent of the consequences, which is we do not know the extent of the environmental consequences of all endangered animals going extinct because it hasn't happened yet. So, therefore, we have no way of knowing if it will greatly endanger mankind. We do, however, know what happens when invasive species changes an ecosystem. This may not be specifically and only about a species being killed off, but it does give an example of a change in an ecosystem. And for those who don't know what invasive species are, an invasive species are flora or fauna that are non-native to an environment and/or alter habitats by changing the natural controls of the distinct ecosystem. And this definition is by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So the problems with invasive species include 1, oftentimes the added species doesn't have a natural predator, so the population just keeps multiplying. And number 2, the added species can outcompete native species already in the environment for nutrients and cause extinctions and therefore disrupt the whole ecosystem. And this is by the MIT University. For example, in the Florida Everglades, where the paper bark tea tree now lives, they are known for taking over ecosystems. So the sawgrass marshes were turned into swamps because of them. During this process, the tree acts like a weed, modifying the water quality, altering the soil resources, increasing the risk of fire in that area, and decreasing the value pricing estimate of the land. So you guys may be asking, if invasive species are so harmful, then why don't we just get rid of them? Well, a major problem associated with invasive species is the cost and arguments over who should fund it. And not just the money, it's not just the money that's a problem, it's also because it's difficult because even after getting rid of the species, there may be some remaining species that will reproduce and therefore make more of them. And so they'd have to do a whole process again and make sure that each one of the individuals is killed off or taken away from the area. So moving on to my second claim is that we rely on animals. And the following information, it comes from BBC.com, which is a news website. So many times you may hear people say that we must take care of the ecosystem because, for example, rainforests may have useful things like medicines or even the cure for cancer. But, well, if that argument were true, what happens to all the species that don't have direct useful things to offer? Why should we care about them too? Well, in the 1990s, biologists started outlining all the ways animals and plants benefit us just by being there. So these benefits, which most take for granted, are called ecosystem services. Again, this is by BBC.com. An example would be photosynthetic plankton in the sea, and green plants provide us with oxygen we breathe. More obvious examples include insects and crops. The decline of pollinating insects has caused concern because crops provide us with food. So a rebuttal to this would be like, why do you need ecosystem services? Since we're so modernized now, why not just make a machine that does it for us? Well, it's more difficult than it seems. Imagine a world with no humans. So we would need a machine to provide us with oxygen and clean water. Apart from this, there's nothing to eat, so we would have to make artificial food with chemicals, but making it taste just as good as natural food would be difficult. And the microorganisms that live in our gut that we get from natural food are vital for our health. So apart from it being difficult to live without the ecosystem services, it would also damage the economy. In 2010, study concluded that an unchecked species loss would wipe 18% of global economic output by 2050. And to transition into this, we are unsure of the extent of economic consequences of animal extinction. That's my third claim. And in 1997, ecologist Robert Constanza and his colleagues estimated that the biosphere provides service worth of 33 trillion a year, compared to the global economy providing around 18 trillion a year. So to make this more clear to you guys, because I know that really like visualizing trillions is kind of difficult. So just imagine that the biosphere provides us with more than double the total economic output. So this, although is from the 1997, so the Constanza's group estimated an update year of annual worth of the service to be around the range of 18 trillion to 61 trillion. Here's an example of the estimated value of a biome's ecosystem services before human alteration and after. In Thailand, the total economic value of the intact mangroves exceeded that of shrimp farming by around 70%. So imagine $60,000, $400 compared with $16,700 per hectare. 1 hectare is about 2.47 acres of land. Conclusion, the lack of conservation for an endangered species puts our survival into question because 1, we don't know the extent of the consequences. 2, we rely on the animals. And 3, we are unsure of the extent of the economic consequences of animal extinctions. Thank you.
All right, well, you have identified a proposition. I don't know how controversial it is, the notion that species are dying off and that's a potentially bad thing. I don't know that anybody denies that. There's, like you said, there's no way to demonstrate some things because some things haven't happened yet. So it's very speculative about the consequences that you're talking about here. If we were considering an action, I don't know what action would be discussed, what works, what doesn't work, what actions we're taking that are producing a harm. We don't know any causality. We simply get a description of what these interrelationships are. And like I said, I don't know that anybody disputes that those interrelationships exist. If there's an argument that says that we need greater control over interspecies or invasive species in our ecosystems, okay, well, you've started an argument that might go in that direction, but basically you say it's not really possible to control those invasive species. So if it's not possible to control and we don't know what's going to happen, what is the argument on this? I'm not sure. You know, it's really very hypothetical on that point. The reliance on animals, again, I don't think anybody disputes that. I mean, you've got good examples of the way animals influence the ecosystem, and I think everybody knows that, whether it is bees or ants or termites or, you know, a variety of things that we think of as being potential pests for our homes doesn't mean that they shouldn't exist in the in nature in some way. And I don't know that anybody says let's go out and eliminate all of a particular kind of bug, although I would tell you Jerusalem beetles would be on my list first because I can't stand those. They creep me out. But you know, the truth is there isn't an advocacy group that says, you know, let's kill all of a particular species. And there are plenty of advocacy groups that say, let's protect a variety of species. But you don't even know which species are threatened, which ones aren't threatened, and which ones, what we could be doing about it. So again, I'm back to the situation where I'm not sure what it is that's being argued. The notion that there's an economic impact of these all kinds of animal species, again, I'm not sure that anybody disputes that. Your example with Thailand, and you start talking about shrimping and acres, and I didn't understand the argument that you're being presented there. How does this example illustrate your point? I think the point is relatively clear. There's a lot of value in a variety of species, regardless of whether they create medicines or anything else, because they enhance economic value. But the alternative is, if we didn't have any human intervention, who cares about economic value? So again, I'm back to the situation where I'm wondering, what is it that is being disputed here, and what conclusion do you want us to arrive at? At the end of the presentation, I'm not sure I've been moved in any direction other than I do know that there are species out there that, you know, are important. And I knew that to start with, so I'm not sure I'm getting as much argument as I need. All right, thank you.